Eunice.
And the investigators are staying mum on the cause of the fire, but there's plenty of speculation going on.
Now, the fire started at this residence, but it was a matter of time before the embers jumped across and burned 48 acres of dry brush. The water is not so appealing here, with the remnants of the last fish die-off still lining the beach, but people who've swam the sea say it's different out there. The wheel bearing that had to be replaced is very similar to this one, and tram officials say it was a crack in the exterior of the bearing that caused clicking noises on Sunday. This container holds about 16,000 pounds of ice. That's about 2 days' worth for Rodarty Ice Company. It's also quite possibly one of the coolest spots in the desert. Millions have walked through those doors over the years, including dignitaries such as President Bush and President Ford. And on Sunday night, those doors will be closing until December of next year. The pilot goes through a handbook of checks before the plane even leaves the tarmac, including checking the fuel for any pollutants in the tank.
Stephen Bowling had been in the Fletcher family long before Mark Fletcher was diagnosed with cancer a year and a half ago. So family, friends, and folks who've never met Mark got together today to bowl, remembering one remarkable young man.
Eunice Kim joins us from near Highway 58 near Tower Line Road with the latest on road conditions. Eunice.
That's right, Katie. I'm able to stand on the eastbound lanes of Highway 58 because CHP has closed this one down. Investigators say the suspect stole a knife from Merlot's Cutlery in the mall. He then led police officers on a foot chase through this neighborhood, heading toward that wall. Then the suspect climbed over this wall, coming back into the mall parking lot, and this bloodstain marks the spot where the chase ended, with one canine officer stabbed and the suspect shot and killed. Bella's flag is no longer here, but here, temporarily attached to this stand. One after the next, Maud's rooms are packed with 547 teddy bears, each one representing a memory, like this one she received from her great-granddaughter Casey, and in the bedroom there are even more, like this one her grandson sent her, who's serving in Iraq. Now, the group of developers behind the 13 projects met today to strategize their next move. Meanwhile, the county says it'll likely be months before a solution is agreed upon. Back to you. Jim, the 2-year-old toddler, was placed with her grandmother earlier this week after Child Protective Services found bruising on the girl during a foster home visit last week. The grandmother says the 2-year-old was not only bruised from head to toe, but also emaciated, her head shaven bald, and possibly sexually abused. We want to warn you, some of the pictures you'll see may be graphic.
I couldn't even think. I was in shock. I couldn't even cry. I was just sick.
Heather is talking about her reaction after seeing these pictures of her daughter taken by Heather's mother-in-law, bruised from head to toe and also in areas we can't show you.
She was totally black and blue and underneath her diaper, and her ankles and her legs were covered with bruises.
Miller says the 2-year-old should not have been taken away in the first place. A sheriff's detective took the toddler from her parents in January and placed her with Child Protective Services when a thin fracture in the leg was found after she tripped over a wire. This type of injury had been considered an indication of abuse in the past, but not so anymore. Miller reads a report from a county doctor about the case.
This is a very common accidental fracture in toddlers and may occur even an apparently minor fall and twist of the tibia.
The girl is staying with her grandmother now, and even though it has been a few days, you can still see remnants of her bruising. But it's nothing compared to the condition she came in that Tuesday afternoon. Her parents are furious.
You know, these people, they say they're supposed to be Child Protective Services, and they take my little girl because she falls. She trips on a little carpet strip and gets a little spiral fracture, which is very common. 95% of these fractures are accidental. But they try to sit there and say that we're dangerous and we're neglecting our kids. Yet when we get her back, she isn't even the same little girl.
All I want to say is that I just want justice for my baby. I want someone to suffer for this, just as she has.
The sheriff helicopter in the air, the SWAT team and the bomb squad on the ground. This was a scene Sunday morning through the afternoon when sheriff's officers combed an Oildale neighborhood for an armed suspect. Police say it all started with a traffic stop on Decatur Street around 8:40 in the morning. The passenger in that car flashed a handgun, then fled on foot. Police say during the chase, the suspect pointed his gun at the deputy, at which point the deputy fired.
I heard 3 shots.
Pastor John Pace was on his motorcycle in that Decatur Street neighborhood. He was on his way to preach at Riverview Baptist Church, but he would never get there. One of the shots he heard hit him instead of the suspect the deputy was chasing.
I know one of them did, the one that hit me, because when I looked, I seen him shoot, and that's when I took the hit.
The suspect, identified as Casey Abercrombie, was peacefully apprehended after a 6-hour search and standoff. He's charged with attempted murder on a peace officer, with more charges possibly forthcoming.
Yeah, he said, I'm very fortunate I'm fat. He said he don't recommend being fat, but he said it's probably saved my life.
For Pastor Pace, he'll have to live with the bullet lodged in his right shoulder. His doctors told him he was lucky the bullet that pierced his left shoulder missed his spinal cord.
I'm very much at peace. I'm at home with my loved ones, and that has been medicinal. It's like the balm of Gilead. The pain is extreme in the shoulders.
Both Pastor Pace and his wife Mary say they have no hard feelings toward the officer that shot him. They say he was just doing his job.
I'm sure he feels terrible. I know there's a lot of people. I prayed for him. I prayed for his family. I prayed for the suspect, because, you know, he's going to feel terrible. And, you know, God can touch anybody's heart.
There's a chance that he wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for God, you know? I mean, who has a bullet go through you, you know, and make it? I just know it's a miracle from God. Maybe. Yeah.
Roosevelt was renowned.
President Teddy Roosevelt may hold the honors of having the most famous stuffed animal named after him, but in Maud Stackhouse's world, every bear has its own name.
Best Bear, that's the first one.
The 94-year-old collection dates back to 1987, and since then, she's amassed hundreds of bears, whether they be the littlest or the biggest, hand-patched or hand-phone. Each of them have been carefully recorded in booklets that help her remember.
Each one has a number and tells what size they are, who it was from, and what it looks like.
One after the next, Maud's rooms are packed with 547 teddy bears, each one representing a memory, like this one she received from her great-granddaughter, Casey, and in the bedroom there are even more, like this one her grandson sent her, who's serving in Iraq. Maud says she can relate to the people she misses through her bears.
DJ was bought in Florida with my best friend, and she's passed away now.
She had one friend in particular that she started kindergarten with, and they remained friends up until the year that she broke her hip, which was a year ago, and her friend passed away on that very day that she fell and broke her hip, and we almost lost Mom to that.
Her bear collection grew to 576 today when Maud took a trip to Build-A-Bear workshop. Hoffman hospice workers came up with the idea, a chance for her to continue her legacy by making it her own. From picking the dolls, to stuffing them, testing them, and dressing them, these lasting members were named after her dad and her mom. But she dressed them in honor of the people who took part in her special trip.
I noticed a joy in her that I hadn't seen in a while.
This was a trip just as memorable to Maud's 69-year-old daughter, Lorraine, who has been taking care of Maud, as well as her 2-time cancer survivor husband.
All I can say is God is my help. I rely on him an awful lot, but through Hoffman has been a big, big release of a lot of my chores with Mother.
Now I asked Lorraine what will happen to the bears when Maud passes on. She said the family will have their pick to remember their grandmother by, and she hopes to donate the rest to children who can use them for comfort. Back to you, Tammy.